Previously on Green Matters.
There has to be a balance.
Wonderful.
So one needs to involve God in the
Right.
search, but also we need to do the practical aspect of searching.
We have now social media platforms that are organizing relationships and marriages. What's your thought on that?
Yeah. Now, why would God want two people who are different to form a union? You know? And we need to appreciate that because sometimes we make the mistake of the man in the marriage wants the wife to think like him.
Reverend, I think we need to have a number of sessions in this one because I feel like we are rushing through because the issue of communication is diverse. It is almost like everything. I want to say, I recently read something, I think it's a joke, where somebody said, I think you may have come across this, the pastor in church asked the congregation, all the men in church, and said, all the men, all of you who are afraid of your wives, raise your hands. So all the hands went up except for one guy. And then the pastor said, why didn't you raise your hand?
Yeah.
Then he said, she told me not to.
No.
So women have got influence.
Yeah.
Let's face it. Women have got influence. However, that influence must be coupled with maturity.
Yeah.
So that in the end it doesn't become manipulative because they are women who manipulate their husbands. How do we come, or how, because this is yet another thing that is there for men. They feel like if I do not put defense around, she will take advantage of me. So then how do we balance submission with influence?
You brought out a very interesting aspect of the relationship of men and their wives. I think it's a fact that whether with knowledge or unknowingly, there's a way in which women can be controlling over their wife, over their husbands, you know. It's an instinct in them sometimes that just comes out. Maybe it's the mother instinct, where she forgets that this is my husband and she wants to treat him like her son or something.
Right.
And then also it's an instinct that wants to also protect their space. You know, I mean, most men will tell you that if a man is driving and the wife is on the passenger seat, you know, the wife will be telling him about all the features on the road.
Yes.
Have you seen a hump?
Yes.
Have you seen that sign? There's a child coming. You know, you know, and the man says, "How do you think I drive when you are not
when
there?"
you're not there?
You know, so it
even the speed is controlled.
Yes, the speed. No, you're about speed. You are doing this. You are doing that. So it's a way in
I
which
call my wife Ratsa.
So you are confirming it. You know. So they are co-drivers, not just in the car. They are co-drivers in life. You know. And sometimes you also want to see this. I mean, you know, people may try and look at it a different way.
Yes.
If a man stays in marriage for many years with a wife, and then maybe after 40 years or so, maybe this man loses the wife. What is also happening in that unfortunate incidence of losing a wife is that there's also some control that has just lifted up.
Wow.
You know, that's why sometimes we tend to think that what happens to men when they lose their wives? It's like you discover a totally different man. You know, this man was not like this.
Wow.
What could be happening is that controlling hand is
no
not
longer
there, and suddenly there's all this liberty. You know, yeah. So I think that what we need is not control, but what we need is to be accountable to each other.
That's a great
women
word.
need to be very careful that they don't begin to control their husbands, because that's what now may cause a man to begin to do things in hiding, you know, because he feels there's a lot of interference, you know. So there has to be mutual respect. We need to be accountable. We should not be independent from each other. Like the Bible says, the husband is not independent from his wife. and the wife is not independent from her husband. So we need to be accountable to each other, but not controlling.
Because that's where now the thin line is between accountability and being manipulated or controlled.
Exactly.
Some men literally refuse to yield to their wives. They feel, I'm losing my authority, I'm the head of the house. Yes, you are. You don't have to sing the song about it. But even the head of state has got advisors, has got accountabilities and stuff like that. So I think we come to the place where now we oversize the issue of control. Even when somebody says your socks are not okay, you feel they are controlling you.
Yes.
So you get out of, you are, you become an embarrassment. You become just something that is not tamed in the process of rebelling against that control. But like you correctly put it, every relationship needs to have accountability.
Exactly.
Accountability.
Exactly.
In fact, if a man and a woman are going to live together, a woman should feel confident that I can approach my husband about something without praying about it. If my wife has to pray before she talks to me, then it's a disaster.
She should not even be in fear of the husband, because the Bible says every wife see to it that she respects the husband, but the Bible doesn't say fear your husband. So a woman should not live in fear, neither should the husband live in fear.
Exactly. Whilst there are controlling women, but they are stubborn men. They are stubborn men. And we in as much as a woman can wreck her own home, even as men, we do that. To the degree where you can have a woman in your home who doesn't know how much you make, who cannot say anything about your finances. You say, I'm the one who goes to work. And your friends, because sometimes your wife can tell you that I'm not comfortable with your friend. She's not being controlling. She's seeing something that you need to pay attention to. So it is a two-way thing. While we're talking about communication, then comes in another important aspect. Finances. Because where there is no proper communication, then I don't think you can agree financially. Now, how do we handle, Reverend, how do we handle finances? Actually, there are dynamics. There's a case where only the man is working. The second case, both the man and the woman are not working. There is a third case where both the man and the woman are not working. Then there is a final case where the woman is working, the man is not working. So how do we make now these decisions together financially?
I think first of all, looking at those scenarios, if we were to begin from the inception of marriage, when you have a situation where the man is working, the woman is not working, it's okay to start a marriage like that. Where you have, and by working, I'm not just meaning a job here. Somebody could be working, they're selling vegetables in the market, that's okay. Somebody could be working, they're washing cars on the streets, that's okay, that's work, okay?
There's an income.
There's an income. So it's okay to start a marriage where the man is working, but the wife is not. It's not okay to start a marriage where the wife is working, the man is not working. That one
it's a recipe for trouble.
Strongly not advised. It's different if the man loses a job in the course of the marriage. That's different. But I'm talking about the inception as they are starting. Okay. And then also where both are not working, again, that is strongly not advised. Okay. And here is the reason. Generally, the man is looked at as a provider. and also a protector of the family. When you look at the roles of husband and wife, the man is the provider and leader of the family. He needs to have that confidence of saying he's able to provide for the family, however little. Okay, and the wife is there to help. Okay, the wife is there to help in everything. You know, she's a helper. And helping also means she's there to help in providing for the family.
Right.
Because sometimes I think we emphasize the aspect of the man being the provider, such that sometimes women think I should just sit here and enjoy the providence.
Yes.
You know, so we need to understand that the wife is a helper in providing also.
Wow.
Such that if a couple have been working, they've been in marriage, the man loses a job in the course of the marriage, I think the wife should be happy to continue providing for the family. That doesn't change the man's place in the home. It's a phase.
Right.
What the man needs there is support, you know, so that's very critical. So coming back to your question, we've had issues around this, for example, where there are women, you know, who say that my husband's money is ours.
Yes.
But my money is mine. Okay. So the man has no say on what she does with her money because he's the provider. So and then also sometimes these problems have been created by the men themselves. There are men who tell their wives, I'll provide for you, I'll give you whatever you need. What you do with your money is up to you. You know, I don't care what you do with your money. That also is very wrong.
It's very wrong, especially one of the problems that will come in is if the man dies, the woman has never known to use money responsibly.
Exactly. And there are men who, for example, tell their wives, I don't want you to work outside the home. I'll give you whatever you want. That is also wrong, you know, because when your in-laws raised your wife, they gave her an education. They wanted her to be independent.
Exactly.
You know, and they wanted her to support you, you know. So if you stop her from work, it's like you are saying, I'll always be there. You know, and I always have a sound financial muscle. You know, so we don't have the monopoly of what happens with our careers. So we should be there to support each other financially. So the issue of men and women both bringing their money to the table is not so much about how much are you bringing. It's all about accountability. Okay. My wife needs to know my sources of income. She needs to know where my money is coming from.
Yes.
I need to know her sources of income. You know, I need to know where her money is coming from. You know, because so many things happen. You don't want money to come in the home and you don't know where it's coming from. You know, so there has to be accountability. You know, and so if I'm going out of home to go and work, I'm using family time to go and make money. Then I must compensate the family, you know, whether husband or wife, you know. So how the couple does it is now up to them. Whether they say that let's have one pot where we put our incomes, let's have one account where we put our incomes, or you will have your account, I'll have mine. How they do it is really up to them, the nuts and bolts, as long as they are both transparent about their finances.
Yes. Wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Now, yes, sir.
There are, again, when we deal with, these are principles, these are guidelines.
Yes.
But a couple needs to also come down to who they are.
Right.
You know, I mean, if a woman knows that every time I tell my husband that we have a bonus, I have this money, then he will demand for the money so that he goes and drinks it. If that's the pattern in the home, then that woman needs wisdom.
Wisdom.
You know,
Yes.
she will need wisdom on how to manage that situation. Because every time you volunteer the money, it ends up being wasted. Then you need to be cautious. If a husband has a kind of wife where if he declares the money, then all the roads lead to the malls. You know, spend.
Yes.
Then again, you need to look at your context and then manage your situation according to your context. Yeah.
Wow. I was going to take you into the issue of budgets and stuff like that. Maybe because of time, let me just bring one trending issue that I have come to learn about. I have listened to the views and the ideas behind that. I think it's very common in Lusaka, where I think I heard it's a lawyer who was inviting women to go and consult with her. She was going to help them with the documentations and everything. The idea is, as a woman in marriage, the concept says, don't be foolish. Your husband will not always be there. So what you need to do is, while you are in marriage, you need to acquire certain properties that your husband will never know about, secretly. Because she says, don't be foolish. This is what the lawyer was saying, don't be foolish. When the in-laws come, you just walk out without anything. So this thing is happening, Reverend. Women are acquiring properties and completely hid from their spouses. What do you think of that?
It's wrong. It's wrong. I know that probably it's coming from trying to deal with a problem that has been perceived. But again, like I said, when you identify a problem, you need to use the right approaches to deal with that problem. You don't create other problems, you know. So I think it's wrong for whether the husband or wife to be doing secret projects that the spouse does not know of.
Yes.
Because they are using resources from the home. The reason they are doing that secret project is because they are relying on the income from the spouse, you know. So that's taking advantage and abusing the spouse. I think that, you know, couples need to sit down. The Bible says the two become one. You know, the two become one. So when two people get married, they share a life. What I have also belongs to my spouse. What my spouse has also belongs to me. Unless in cases where you are going into a second marriage.
Yes.
If somebody is going into a second marriage, maybe they have property from the previous marriage, then definitely that property has to be kept out of this second arrangement. Because there are children who are entitled to that property. So those are very different dynamics, you know. But otherwise, you know, when we are marrying off people, we say in the vows, all my earthly goods I share with you, you know. So the two become one, meaning they have everything they have together. Now, I'm told even the law recognizes, for example, if a couple has been married for 40 years, and all that 40 years, the man is the one who's been bringing income to the family.
Yes.
The law recognizes that while the man was bringing income, the wife was also contributing in different ways.
In different ways, yes.
You know, so she was contributing in different ways, and there must be an equal sharing, you know. So I think that the idea of telling women to have secret projects is very destructive to marriage, and women need to be very wise, because if any man discovered that, I mean, it can ruin your marriage.
Exactly. Exactly. I think these two issues we've talked about are the major causes of disputes in marriages. That's communication and finances. You can use the money well, but if there's no communication, proper communication, there will be accusations here and there. Now, these two things, actually, I want to believe that would lead into issues of divorce and other issues of infidelity and stuff like that. Let's look at the issue of infidelity. I want to say, man of God, that this problem is not just a problem that affects only our members, including the clergy at many different levels are faced with this. So it is not a small matter. It's a big matter. In fact, statistically, divorce in church has really gone high. Infidelity, we can't even talk about that. So it is a problem that we are faced with. It's a problem that we are living with. Now, what are the major causes of infidelity? And I know I can even help to answer slightly with this one. One of the problems would be lack of communication where we're coming from, because if there is no proper communication, then it means there is no peace. And if there is no peace, there is no enjoyment of anything. So one begins to look for satisfaction outside. So this is the problem that we have. It has affected us drastically, and especially if it is a clergy who is found in that act, it destroys a lot of lives in the process. Where do we begin from as we handle this matter?
Yeah, thanks. I think when we talk about causes of infidelity, again, it's really wide, but we could pick out things here and there. First of all, let's look at the problem. When infidelity happens, there are people who genuinely regret that they found themselves in that situation, okay? And their desire is to keep their marriage or restore their marriage. But then there are also those who will fall into it and still want to continue with it, meaning that their mind and hearts are settled, are made up, and they're justifying their actions. So I'm saying that because, people can be helped out of that situation. They can be helped out of that. Having talked about that, I need to also mention that infidelity doesn't just happen.
No.
Like that. It's a build-up.
Yes.
It starts from something. So you find that maybe in a couple, you could be talking about a couple that just begin by resenting each other. They are taking each other for granted. The man is taking his wife for granted. The wife taking the husband for granted, resenting each other. From nowhere, they start comparing themselves, their spouse to people out there. And things like that. So all that becomes a recipe, because you are resenting each other and you begin to create room now for outsiders. Then also you have, the one time at church we had the topic we dealt with the couples, and I called it emotional affairs.
Wow.
This is an emotional affair is not a full-blown case of infidelity, but it's a recipe. You could even call it a stage to infidelity, And again, coming back to our gadgets and communication, you find that when people become careless with the way they talk about the opposite sex, they create a recipe, they create an environment.
Yes.
I once I was talking to the couples, and I said that, if you call your wife honey, for example, honey to you there means a lot of things.
Yes.
So you can't use the same word to call somebody else.
Right.
Because you've preserved it for your wife.
For your wife.
Okay. So if you call your wife honey and every other woman you see is honey, then there's a problem there. So carelessness comes from the things people talk about. Making suggestions, at the office, for example, you have somebody passing comments that may amount to some kind of sexual attack on you. If you don't stop it, it can lead to these problems.
Yes.
Because whatever you don't stop, you entertain. So you're giving feedback.
Yes.
Today somebody makes comments about your appearance. They make comments about how you look and things like that. You start enjoying that and you start giving feedback. You are creating an atmosphere for infidelity, So we looked at emotional affairs, and we said that if you begin to give emotional support to somebody who is not your husband or your wife, you're already treading on very dangerous ground. Because that energy is supposed to go to your spouse, but you're giving it to somebody else, If you begin to enjoy the company of somebody of the opposite sex, more than you enjoy the company of your wife or your husband, you're already treading in the area of an emotional affair. So you are building up. So those are the safeguards that we need to put in place. When the guard drops, anybody can fall into that. Jesus said, you've been told that do not commit adultery. But I say to you that any man who looks at a woman lustfully commits adultery with her in his heart.
Yes.
So that's where we need to deal with these things in our hearts, in our thought realm. And so it starts like that. Emotional affairs, from there, it becomes full-blown. And we need to address it from there. Sometimes infidelity could come because people were not properly prepared for marriage. Counseling, expectations for marriage.
They were looking for sex.
Exactly. And then they get into the marriage and find that actually there's more to marriage than just sex.
Exactly.
So all those can open up. So one of the reasons God provided the institution of marriage is so that we can actually reduce or eradicate sexual immorality, according to the Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians 7 from verse 2 there. So he says, because of sexual immorality, let every man have his own wife. And let every woman have her own husband, So we need to have boundaries, There are things that you can do or say with the opposite sex, and there are things that you cannot. You set boundaries, The truth about life is that people treat you the way you carry yourself.
Very true.
People treat you. So if you entertain this at your workplace, people will take you like that. But if you tell them, you cannot call me, when I knock off, I'm with my husband, you cannot call me for work issues after 9 o'clock, for example, 9 p.m. And, send messages, but I'll read them the following day, But if you entertain calls, you're entertaining all these from people of the opposite sex, it can end up into problems. So we have to guard all this. The gadgets. We are talking about, you talked about earlier about communication, where people send you anything. Why should people send you anything? It's because you're entertaining it.
Man of God, the issue of gadgets will lead us to talk now about pornography. This problem of pornography is not just affecting the singles. It affects the married as well. Then I would ask the question, what are the married people looking for to go for such things? So it's, and actually once, in fact, I've been asked a question before, is it okay for a married couple to watch pornography together? It's a genuine question, but my answer immediately is no. What pleasure are you having in that? And then also, once you give yourself to pornography, you begin to compare your spouse to the other person you saw acting. In fact, I need to say that people in pornography are acting. They are paid for that. It's a multi-billion dollar project, an industry.
It's an industry.
It's an industry. So they act and they are paid for that. And then after you watch that act, you want your wife to act like that.
It's not real life.
It's insane. It's insane. In fact, also the age factor comes in. What you are seeing a young girl doing, your wife is 55. She can't do that anymore. The body can't allow. So you are putting a burden on someone. But at the center of it, I want to believe that it is lust.
Exactly.
It is lust.
Exactly.
Now, we have a problem, Reverend. The problem is that we have kids we are ushering into marriage who are addicted to sex before they get married. Then once they get married, we are hoping that they will stop. We are hoping they will stop. I believe that 90% chances are that they won't stop because it's the issue of lust. Lust does not say enough. So they continue doing that. And then we now come to handle this problem after they're already married. So how do we contend? How do we teach people about sex? What is sex? How should sex be practiced? And at what point should we say, this you cannot do?
I think it's back to the Bible.
Yes, sir.
It's back to the Bible. It's back to the Creator. So when people are coming into marriage, I think that it's important to discuss their past.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
The couple need to discuss their past, and it needs to come out in counseling. Are there habits that could ruin the marriage? You know, people can be counseled and they can be prayed for. You know, because any habit that may ruin the marriage or that may affect your spouse negatively must be addressed before you get into the marriage. Is there a health problem that somebody has that may affect their sex life? All those things must come out. You know, they must be discussed and they must be incorporated in the counseling, because you don't want surprises. You know, you don't want surprises. So all these things must be discussed. So similarly, the subject of sex, we need to start in our homes. Let's talk to our children about it. Let's show them what is right and what is wrong. The best guard is the person's heart. You know, if a person says this is not good for me, then they'll keep it out of their heart. And that's the best guard. You know, to try and watch over people's shoulders to keep them from doing this or that may not help, because when they're alone, they'll do whatever they want to do. So we need to also, you know, the devil is targeting young people, targeting children early. So we need to get the kids early. You know, one of the challenges we've had in this COVID time and church is that especially the children have been affected, you know, because the children are not coming to church. And so you can see that we may be behind 2 years plus by the time things get back to normal. You know, the kids would have been 2 years behind, you know, 2-3 years behind. So it means that we have to really be proactive, you know, and as families get involved in the training of children in the way of God, and then also have a support network with the church. So we have to go back to the word. The word. Guidance is there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to raise a few issues. Let me begin with this one. There is the issue. Now, let me say, temptations will always be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we cannot rule out the fact that someone can fall into temptation.
Yeah.
Even sexually, one can fall into that, because human beings are not immune to that. It can happen. Now, when it happens, I want to borrow the word that you used earlier on when we talked about when we were at the level of communication. You used the word accountability. I think when such a thing happens, if your heart is well, you want to open up to someone. But again, the fear is, if I tell this person that this thing happened to me, will the whole city know about it? So it's the issue of privacy again. So they are people genuinely who want to be helped, but they don't know who can help them because they don't trust anyone. However, we need to strive within ourselves to find responsible and accountable relationships where we can talk about these matters, because, man of God, these things happen. And if you're not talking about it, you are internalizing them. And if you internalize them, they are growing inside. So I think we need to come to the place, even us as clergyman of God, I believe, where I will not do something because I fear you. I know that Reverend Kangwa won't spare me on this one, because sometimes we don't fear God. We think He'll forgive us, I'll repent. But if you have people who will hold you accountable, then you relent somehow. So the issue of accountability is very key. But there is the other aspect now, where people are in marriage. You mentioned this in passing, where there are illnesses. Then that means sexually, life will not be the same. How do we handle that?
I think that we need to be very clear about the purpose of the church. Jesus said a physician is not sent to people who are okay.
Exactly.
You know, Jesus came to a sinful world. He died for a sinful world. And we need to understand that the church is there to help people.
Right.
You know, And so the restoration process must be very clear in a church. Members need to know that if somebody falls, there are people they can run to for help.
Yes.
And then also the church needs to build a very strong confidentiality system, where people know that if I go to talk to a leader and open up about my issue, these things will remain there. They will not be for the public. That security is very important.
Yes. Yes.
Similarly, if a couple is going through a situation in the church, they need to have that liberty of running to the pastor or to the leaders to open up, knowing that they will get help.
Right.
Then also we need to also be clear that we are not here to condemn people. We are not here to judge people. We are here to help them and to restore them. So the process must be clear. Then also we need to provide an environment in the church where the members know that if the leadership is not condemning or judging anyone, then no member should condemn or judge another person. So that environment is very critical.
Wow.
If people don't see that, then they will have difficulty coming to open up and to confess. Because when it comes to dealing with sin, there's a place for confessing your sins one to another, and pray for one another that you may be healed. So there's a certain healing element that may be missed if people don't come out to confess and get that help. So you find that the enemy will hold them and keep them in bondage,
right.
Because he knows that they can't confess.
They can't
bring it out.
They can't. There's healing in confession.
Exactly. Exactly. Then also, like you said, even among the clergy, there must be certain relationships, where you can go and share your challenges to, your difficulties to. We need to have people that we are accountable to, your wife. My wife, for example, needs to know that there's somebody she can run to when she's having challenges with me. And she knows that if that person picks up the phone, I will answer.
Yes.
So she needs to know that she has such people in her life. So accountability is very critical.
Right there, Reverend. I think I would say that the ratings amongst the clergy has really dropped, mostly because of the independent ministries and churches. Like you said, you and I, there are things that we'll never do because of the cover that we are under. I fear my superiors, though I would be tempted once in a while and it looks tempting, but I know once they pick the phone and call, I'm in trouble. So that keeps me. This is the accountability we're talking about.
A sense of authority.
But now we have these men of God who don't report to anyone. They are not accountable to anyone.
Next on Greenroom Matters.
You'll be amazed that a problem that breaks one marriage may actually build another marriage.
We establish from the scriptures that this relationship, man to man, sexually, is wrong. Woman to woman is wrong. Now, my case here, man of God, is how do we handle any case where we notice that our members are slanting into this direction?
We need to create an environment where somebody can run to church and not feel targeted.
Right.
They are coming to church because they want to experience God.
you.